Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's NASC Preferred Supplier webinar, Breaking Through the SMS Barrier, Solutions for CBD and Hemp Companies. I'm Bill Parker with NASC, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Tyler Craig. Tyler is Chief Revenue Officer at Blustream. Tyler is also a proud dad to his daughters and his dogs, and is serious about his baseball. And with that, I will turn it over to Tyler Craig.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that, and pleasure to be here with the NASC as always. And hello to all of our fellow members. I understand some non-members yet, so hello and welcome. And thank you everybody for taking a few minutes out of your day to talk about what we have to talk about. And as Bill just alluded to, I've got some pictures up here and do have a passion for baseball. So if there are any Cubs fans out there, anybody in the Chicago area, that's my team. Always happy to talk about that. So like Bill mentioned, my name's Tyler Craig. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Blustream. I've been with the company for about 3 years now. And my background is a little bit varied. I've spent the last 15 years in software, specifically around technologies that are designed to make businesses and consumers' lives easier. Prior to that, I was involved in the restaurant industry and the wine business. And I think that that background's important to me because I really have a passion for hospitality and for developing personal connections, which is a big part of what we'll talk about today. And these days at Blustream, I get to apply technology, much of it in the pet industry, specifically pet health products, for companies in a way that's really fun and mutually beneficial. So hopefully I get to meet some of you in subsequent meetings or events, like a few weeks from now in Tampa, hopefully. And as for the pictures, you get proof here, as Bill mentioned, that I love pets. And my daughters there, the two less furry creatures behind Reese, who is, since that picture now, a much larger lab husky mix about to turn 2. And the two on the right there are Bailey and Murphy. They are unfortunately no longer with us, both having left us in the past year or so at the ages of 17. And I leave their picture here, not just to honor their memory as members of our family, but I think it's also really relevant to today's discussion. There are so many products, so many advances in the CBD hemp cannabis space that I often wonder if there were some things that we could have tried in my family to ease their anxiety, their seizures, the things that they were going through in their final months, aside from the standard prescribed methods that we're probably all familiar with. But many consumers at the time, I struggled to educate myself on these products, often finding confusion and being unsure of their general usage, really. So I'm excited to talk to this group of people who know far more about these types of products than I do, so we can hopefully learn from one another and perhaps educate the masses through technology. So getting a bit into the agenda today, we're going to be specifically talking about, as Bill mentioned, breaking through the SMS barrier with alternative solutions for CBD and hemp companies. We're going to spend some time on the current regulatory issues that you all face regarding the utilization of SMS as a delivery vehicle for messages in certain industries, in addition to the compounding effects around the difficulty in general of customer retention in this competitive and often misunderstood space. So from there, we'll go a bit into the solution that we at Blustream offer, why we feel a product ownership type of mentality as opposed to, or in addition to, promotional consumer acquisition type of mentality is key. And then I think we'll definitely have some time for Q&A at the end. Let's start with a little bit on why SMS has been so successful. There's no doubt that SMS is extremely successful as a delivery vehicle for post-sale customer communication, from education to questions to guidance to purchase recommendations. Being able to leverage it is extremely impactful. Not being able to, equally frustrating. And frustrating because when you look at some stats around it, 86% of businesses report higher engagement with SMS relative to email. Consumers, all of us here, are 35 times more likely to read an SMS than an email. Further to that, 66% of consumers actually prefer SMS over email. So it's where consumers want to be. And that's further indicated by the fact that 70% of text messages are read within 1 minute. And agnostic to SMS or text, 2/3 of consumers expect personalization from a company that they buy products from. And that doesn't, I think that the differences of personalization matter. That doesn't mean PetSmart or Petco, no offense to them, sending the emails that I get that they get my name right, they get Reese's name right, they might have his birthday right. That's it. That's not personalization. That type of thing is easy. That's very basic. And this is important because connected consumers are worth 10 times their first purchase. And if you sell, say, a $50 product, are you getting $500 in lifetime value from that customer? Probably not, with good repurchase rates hovering around 25 to 30% and good retention in a subscription repeating consumable based product company being about 50% after 6 months. Think about that for a minute. It's considered good to only lose half your customers within 6 months. And if you do some rough math on that, it says that for 1,000 new customers, maybe your 1,000 new customers in the month of May, that's a 6-figure loss over the course of a year. And I don't believe, and we're proving it at Blustream, that has to remain the case. You work way too hard to acquire your new consumers, only to see half of them, probably more, walk away in a mere matter of months. That can be fixed, though. Develop the connection, build their trust, ensure their loyalty. And you love to with SMS, but unfortunately, you can't. So let's talk a little bit about the regulatory hurdles that you're facing. And at the risk of being overly redundant to presumably a very knowledgeable audience on this topic, there's been basically an SMS crackdown that has impacted your industry. The CTIA is an organization that represents the US wireless communications industry, and there's rules and regulations around this form of communication that are created and monitored by this organization, the Cellular Telecommunications and Internet Association. And all phone carriers, the T-Mobiles and the AT&Ts of the world, belong to the CTIA. So all phone carriers, and consequently their customers, must comply with all these rules and regulations. Now, that isn't to say that the CTIA is inherently evil. They outline some general principles and best practices around SMS, including basic things like always getting a consumer's consent before sending a message and always giving a consumer an easy way to opt out. Those are good things, but they maintain a list of keywords and topics and content categories that can't be discussed over SMS from a business. And it's a broad-based policy designed to ensure that essentially inappropriate content doesn't reach an unintended audience. And this prohibited content is summed up by the acronym SHAFT, which stands for sex, hate, alcohol, firearms, and tobacco. So in short, including information related to this type of content in SMS messages, it's considered in violation of CTIA regulations and results in messages being blocked. And it can also result in your business being banned from sending out future SMS of any kind, regardless of who the vendor might be for that. But there are nuances to these rules when it comes to promoting federally legal businesses and products. So these shaft-oriented products are all federally legal, and thus they could be discussed through SMS campaigns as long as there's a functioning age gate in place, basically ensuring that a consumer is 21 years old. Where we get into the real problem here is that Shaft now also includes CBD and cannabis, and any content related to that, even if it's not always explicitly stated, is because these ingredients are illegal at the federal level. So these messages get blocked. So if you were a business that sells wine or beer, for example, you're able to use SMS, but you just have to avoid certain words like alcohol, wine, liquor, until you have the express confirmation that the consumer is 21 years old. Unfortunately, in your space, you don't have this luxury. And outside of blocking the messages, the FCC fines from the infractions are very steep, up to $1,500 per message if a company like Blustream or others like a Klaviyo or an Attentive chose to send them, which we do not. And we've talked to many companies in both the human and pet CBD health space who, prior to this, were driving over half of their revenue via SMS prior to this, to their incorporation into the into the Shaft guidelines. So we know it works, and we definitely understand the emotional side of not being able to leverage what was prior a very effective communication channel. But the good news is SMS is just one delivery vehicle. The real objective for your business is personalized post-sale communication that's designed to drive loyalty and retention. To further compound the regulatory problem, not to be a doomsdayer, and we'll get to some fun things, but there's that other problem, how to create that connected customer in general. And some of this I've alluded to a bit already. Subscription or recurring repeatable product-based companies like pet consumables typically lose half their customers in as soon as 90 days, even if you could leverage SMS. And according to one group, Menace Strategies, these types of companies, presumably everybody's here on this meeting, are now entering a third phase, what they define as the retention phase. And that's really where personalization starts to become key. And so interactive contextual dialogue that creates this personalization, this loyalty, this retention isn't limited again to SMS. So let's start taking that a bit further now that we've hammered the problems faced. What if your products had a voice? What if your products could communicate with your customers in a really contextually relevant way by understanding whether they're a first-time customer or a 10th-time customer, by understanding whether they have a puppy or a dog or 6 dogs, by understanding whether they have a lab mix or whether they have a rat terrier, by understanding whether they're apprehensive about supplements or not, by even understanding whether the products are having the desired effects on their pets, or whether the pet parent even fully understands the effects of a product and what to look for. It's this type of data that can be gathered and internalized to truly give your products a voice. Taking that one step further, a product's voice is only as good as its timing. Those very first moments, those critical first moments between a consumer and a product are very different than being 3 months in. So by using key moments to deliver timely messages, you can provide really personalized, first use, unboxing, getting started type of instructions. And as a product is consumed and used, messaging gets optimized for unique usage cases, then onward as more care and guidance is needed. And that's the Blustream platform, giving products a voice to speak at these key moments on behalf of your brands, which is really where we start to come in. So who is Blustream at a high level? Blustream is a product ownership AI company, and our sole mission is to better connect companies to their customers through really innovative product experiences. So we help physical goods and services companies do that with our SaaS, our software as a service-based messaging platform that powers engagement, delivering intelligent, adaptive, dynamic messaging that is uniquely dependent on where your consumer is in their journey with your product. So we basically digitize those key moments we talked about in the journey to provide this interactive usage and care guidance. And companies trust us to build these really innovative product experiences that ultimately drive loyalty and retention. And if I was to rewind the last 30 seconds and say none of that, I'd reiterate something on a prior slide, which is really what we're doing, which is giving your products a voice. And removing the SMS component, because again, that's just one delivery mechanism. What we're doing is bridging a gap. On your left, you have your traditional marketing technology solutions. These are designed to drive consumer acquisition primarily through promotions. Companies like Klaviyo, like Postscript, traditional email marketing like Salesforce or HubSpot. And then on your right, you've got customer satisfaction and support, very reactive ticketing solutions, maybe like a Freshdesk or like a Zendesk, or even CRMs like a HubSpot or a Salesforce, What's missing is that middle component to bridge the gap, and that's product ownership AI, understanding precisely where your customer is in their journey with your product. How many platforms do you know of on the market today where you can ask a question and pivot the response immediately based on the unique reply of the consumer every time at the right time with incredible precision. We know of one. And so that's where we start to enter the newest component of product ownership AI, what we're referring to as Blustream's cloud tech. So by leveraging a more web-based format, which I'll touch on more deeply in a moment, that gap is bridged. Think of it almost as a window to your customer via our cloud. And here you see a brief example of what that dialogue between you and your consumer might be that we build. So in this case, going through it quickly, a company called Soul. So a first message looks something like, welcome to Soul. And we state immediately what the purpose is. You're here, you're going to receive periodic news alerts, usage recommendations from us to help Reese with his CBD products. So already using some unique attributes that we know about the customer that we learn in a number of different ways. And then sometime later, pivoting to, hey, it's your friends from Soul again. In terms of your familiarity with CBD products, would you rate yourself a beginner or an expert? And here you see that bi-directional dialogue start to take place where we're learning valuable information about the consumer. So this woman replies beginner, which tells us something that elicits a response of thank you. Because she's a beginner, we're going to provide some more 101 level information. Like the only way to know how these CBD products will affect Reese is to start with a small amount and to note the effects. Starting a journal would be a good idea, and perhaps a link to purchase one or an FAQ sheet to what a good journal structure would be to track the effects and the dosages of the products. And then based on the consumer's engagement with that link, for example, that content, that would trigger a subsequent message that says, thanks for reading that. Of course, they wouldn't have received that if they had not read it. So we're tracking these things. We know what's been read, what's been responded to, but thanks for reading that. The key for beginners, for you and Reese, is to take it slow and easy. Feel free to click here for additional information, which again could be anything, very customizable. It's an FAQ sheet. It's a link to 30-second YouTube videos from the founder explaining the product. It could be a number of different things, but that's just to give a quick look into what this portal between you and your customer could look like in terms of the user experience itself. But how is this actually working? So by connecting the life cycle of your products with the lives of your pet parents and their furry friends is how it's working. Our unique ability, our patented ability, lies in marrying the unique attributes of your pets and the unique attributes of your pet parents with your products. The age, the breed, the weight, the effects of past products, the ailments of the pet, those all matter. The pet parent's experience level, their lifestyle, their location, their environment, all of those things matter. And by having a SaaS platform, a cloud-based messaging solution to internalize and understand and deliver and report all of what's needed is what should be put in place. And that's exactly what we're really excited to be working on at Blustream, so we can continue to enhance the lives of pets and pet parents with your products like we do in other industries. So going a layer deeper into what we're doing here, how it works, what that user experience is. We start by meeting your consumers where they are. That could be a link in a marketing email. It could be a existing or new QR code on a package or a bottle. In the view here, see my cursor, we're showing the most prominent way at the point of purchase through your online shop, excuse me, say with WooCommerce or Shopify. So quite literally, you see in that first image, a product has been loaded into a cart or even just purchased, and a simple message pops up congratulating them on their purchase and informing them exactly of what's happening next. Connect with us to ensure the best tips for dosing, safety, questions, etc. through an interactive chat. And with one click, we're often running with an experience that looks and feels exactly like traditional SMS, a text. And then a customized welcome message appears, welcoming them to the family, perhaps with information related to that specific product. Thank you for purchasing the sleepy gummies in this example. And then we start the personalized bi-directional conversation. Have you ever used this before? And based on an answer of no, we'd say, great, we're here to be with you. We'll guide you through every step of the process to getting started. Check out this FAQ to ensure that the first experience for Reese is exceptional. And then sometime later, by the way, if you'd like to ensure the best continuing experience through notifications and guidance and education, just say yes. At this point, you've now got a direct connection to them, a direct portal to their pocket from our cloud. You could almost think of this as being synonymous with maybe a chat resource on a website, but we're putting you in their pockets, making it that much easier. And by the way, should they for some reason say, no, I don't want the notifications, you're still connected to them. They're still going to receive an email, for example, notifying them of a new notification that's relevant to them. And you can think of that almost like, the emails that we all get when we have a new LinkedIn or Facebook notification. We can get to those through the LinkedIn icon on our phone. We can get to those through the link in the email. We can get to those through the LinkedIn website. And that's what our cloud text is allowing, is to deliver the tips, ask the questions, receive the answers. It gives your product that voice without needing to rely on SMS. And so through this product ownership AI methodology, whether the delivery mechanism is SMS or cloud text or email or push notification through an app, it doesn't matter. The results that our customers see are pretty incredible, truly improved business health that we're really happy to be a part of for companies. The area that we're solving for is really up here in this limeish green area. And if you look back to that example of 1,000 consumers and your expected retention over time, that's this blue line down and to the right there. So the upper right, this is lost revenue through churn and lack of cross-sell and upsell potential because a customer has been churned. And a recent example has one of our customers, for example, seeing a 48% conversion rate, a purchase conversion rate on these personalized purchase recommendations, because that trust and that rapport have been developed to ensure that they have an incredible first experience. Much different than a promotional methodology that is, here's your 25% purchase, or because you should buy this, because there's been trust numbers like that 48% purchase conversion rate. A few other metrics for you. So consumers on our platform, your consumers on our platform, stay connected at over a 90% rate. So if you were to say have 1,000 consumers on our platform, you'd expect 900 or more of them to remain engaged with the type of dialogue that you want to have with them. And the result of that extremely high level of retention on our platform is an incredible lift in retention, typically around 40%, resulting in a 30% lift in overall revenue and a doubling of the lifetime value of your consumer, all because you have this new connected channel to your consumer via your product. But we also look at it from a different perspective. This hasn't been any company's fault. There hasn't been a solution for this before. You've had no easy way to educate, to create, to manage, to measure these product ownership experiences. And it's especially hard to do in the CBD, hemp, and cannabis space. And I want to go one step deeper on the word measuring. According to McKinsey, a resource we looked at for their guidance, often the most successful subscription and repeatable revenue businesses are successful because they collect and analyze data, which is, I think we all know, very, very hard to do in a meaningful way. And through what I've shown so far with our approach, you're able to start seeing really much richer customer profiles because you know where in the product life cycle your consumers are. You know exactly how and why they're using your products. You know their opinions of your products, and you're able to start to see trends and be proactive with customers that might need that additional attention, because you've got this really micro level look at their experience with your product because they're talking to you about it. And quickly going even one step further on the data by focusing on product ownership, again, as opposed to, or in addition to all the promotional activities, you're able to obtain a lot of levels of data that have never existed. And you take this and compare it to what exists for most companies today. And what exists are basic data points like website interaction data, Shopify purchase history data, Google Analytics data, open and click rates for email, maybe a physical address of a customer. So overall, really solid purchase history data, but very limited view into engagement and demographical data of your customer. So, with that type of data, you're able to achieve a basic level of segmentation and audience data for these promotional marketing campaigns, and take that now and contrast it with zero-party data. And to obtain true zero-party data, you need this direct channel to receive voluntary customer information such as interests, motivations, preferences, needs, the type of guidance that they've asked for. So when you're armed with that type of data, you've got a really powerful reach to be able to deliver true personalization that leads to that loyalty, that leads to that real retention. And with the CTIA and the shaft regulations, access to your data is gold for you to be able to sell more of your relevant products to the relevant consumers, to take feedback to create new products from that feedback data. And you don't want to be shooting blind with these type of initiatives, which you're likely to be doing potentially if you formerly relied on SMS as a communication vehicle for obtaining this type of data. And again, this isn't first party data collected by a website or software. This is zero party data that's been voluntarily shared by the consumer. So more honest and also more valuable. And at the end of the day, all of this type of thing is set up and managed in a simple SaaS platform that can be as set it and forget it, or as data driven as you like. We have customers and engagements on our platform that we have weekly meetings with to go over this data. We have customers that check in with us twice a year, and everything in between. So really designed for maybe those smaller operations where people are wearing many hats, all the way to larger organizations where there maybe are a data scientist on staff, and again, everything in between. But from a simple SaaS platform that's an easy to navigate user interface to see these types of data, then of course our team on the back end to help talk through or to shine a light on any relevant areas. And with all of this in place, we all win. You have better retention, you have increased revenue, and you have higher consumer LTV. You're not reliant on ever-changing SMS regulations. Your consumer now has an insane level of trust in you from the personalized experience and guidance that you've provided them. And Blustream wins. We have great partners and loyal customers, and partners. I like to use the word partner over customer. We truly look for long-term partnerships with all of our customers. That's what we're looking for. Everybody wins. So we're ready to open it up to Q&A. Bill, if you're open for that, we'd love to answer any questions on how we can give products a voice, a non-SMS voice.
First of all, what other industries or sectors do you work with outside of pet?
Good question. So yeah, Blustream as a company has been in existence since about 2015. So we have a pretty varied background, but not too varied. We're not looking to go super wide in tons of different industries. Where we've been really successful is where we're staying, and that tends to be in what I'll call the general health and wellness category, where I would categorize pet supplements, human supplements. You think of diet and exercise driven companies like subscription boxes for workout proteins and things like that, products that need help, where there's a repeatable nature to the purchase and where there's a churn or a retention problem. So a lot in the general health and wellness for both humans and pets. And then, also part of our legacy as a company, which is probably make no sense to anybody, but is in the musical instrument rental space. For example, school band and orchestra, every K through 12 student in the country that's playing a trumpet or a clarinet through school, really no different. It's a subscription based business. Those parents, those students are paying a monthly fee for an instrument, and typically that first grader at a 50% clip is not coming back for their second grade year of playing the clarinet, for example. So those are a few areas of focus right now. We get asked to be pulled in a lot of different directions, and that's kind of always our litmus test. Is it a company that has a product that needs some help and guidance? So that the brand of this shirt probably is not a customer for us. I don't need help with this shirt. where there's a retention or a churn problem, and where there's a repeatable subscription-based consumable nature to the product.
Next question is, what do you attribute Blustream's 40% retention rate to? And
Yeah, good question.
why don't other services achieve this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I probably went through that in a couple of different ways. But I think, most concisely, what companies do, what they're used to. Companies are used to doing email marketing to check a box, or have gotten into SMS promotional type of advertising in the last few years to kind of check that box. What none of those solutions provide for, though, are that help with the product. I like to say often, to a company or a prospect we're talking to, if you could be with your customer in those first few moments that they're using your product, what would you say to them? What would you ask them? And the tools that have historically existed, email marketing doesn't do that. And even, SMS focused solutions like an Attentive or a Klaviyo aren't doing that. They're very one directional. You can set up some, if this, then that scenarios that can guide a consumer a little bit. But once you get a question you weren't expecting, or get some feedback you weren't expecting, that's where those types of solutions fall down. So I think it's our ability to think of it not think of all those as a more campaign driven. They're very linear. So there's a starting point, there's an ending point. What we're doing is providing the ability to go forward, to go backward, to go left, to go right, based on kind of all those different attributes we talked about. Go left, right, forward, back, based on a pet's age or weight or reactions to a particular product. And so when you have that in place, that's where you're again seeing 90+% retention on our platform that leads to 40-ish% retention increases for our customers. So it really is that product guidance centric approach, as opposed to a promotional approach, that allows us to deliver the types of results that we're seeing.
Okay. And then are there minimums in regards to a company's size or volume for implementing this service?
Yeah, really good question. So from a commercial perspective, we keep everything really easy. We don't do any setup fees or maintenance fees, anything like that. Everything is predicated on the quantity of contacts, so the end consumers that are going to be coming onto our platform. So typically 1,000 consumers total is the entry point to our platform, but we have instances in the past where we've done some smaller amounts than that, and we have instances on our platform with hundreds of thousands of consumers. And so everything is based on the number of consumers. Typically around 1,000 is the direct answer to that question, and then the costing is determined based on the quantity of contacts. Obviously, there's better unit economics involved for 10,000 contacts than there are 1,000 contacts. So that's how we work that.
And then what's the process for getting started? And I think you might have touched on this a little bit earlier, but what is the process for getting started?
Yeah, so typically we'll have a 30 to 45-minute introduction call with somebody. We'll start to learn what their current levels of retention, churn are, what maybe the average annual spend of their typical consumer is, and we'll put together an ROI calculation for what we'd expect the Blustream platform to do for them. And typically it's a 5 to 10x. We've seen instances of 15x ROI that companies are able to achieve against their Blustream investment. So once that makes sense to somebody, we get a standard order form in place, and we're on to a kickoff call, which is 45 minutes, maybe an hour, where our delivery team is gathering a bit more information that we'll use to put together those initial, what we call the product blueprint. So it's a couple of calls and to get started, and then a call every week, a call every other week over the period of 4 to 5 weeks, and we're up and running. So look at it as in about a month and in about 4 to 5 total hours worth of time for us to make sure we're gathering the voice of the company properly, because each one's a little bit different. Somebody can be up and running.
Is there any issue at all as far as the security of the end user's data that you touch on during the process?
That's a really good question. So our order forms do contemplate for data, and we make it very clear that this data is not Blustream's. Ultimately, the data is owned by the consumer, and it's almost as if our customer is leasing that data, and Blustream is the processor of the data. So we delineate that very clearly: who owns the data, who's the processor of the data. So we have no ownership of the data, and the agreement outlines that we don't have the ability to use it for anything other than in anonymized and aggregated ways for the overall betterment of the platform and things of that nature. So we're very serious about data privacy at Blustream, and we make that clear to everybody in our order forms.
Excellent. And then did you mention that that your product integrates with HubSpot?
It's a good question. So there are kind of two types of integrations that we have. We have direct integrations with platforms like Shopify, for example, but we also have integrations with tools like Zapier, which, if anybody is not familiar with that, I think of it as almost a one of our engineers would be able to describe it far better than I could. But I think of Zapier as kind of a Swiss Army knife for connecting different platforms together, and all the primary platforms like a HubSpot or Klaviyo or others have Zapier integrations, as do we. So anybody that does, we can connect those together pretty easily.
It looks like we've come to well, actually, we haven't come to the end of our questions. Tyler, one of the questions was, and I'll let you answer it, was go Phillies. And it was asked, so I have to let you answer it.
Go Phillies. How would I answer go? I would say, this is what I would say. As a Cubs fan, 2016 is the greatest year ever, and a big piece of that team was Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber is now on the Phillies, so I'm I guess de facto Phillies fan slightly, as long as they're not playing the Cubs because of Kyle Schwarber.
That was masterful. Very, very well done.
Not what I was expecting at all, but yeah, I need to check in on his stats. I'm not sure how he's doing yet this year.
Thank you very much, Tyler. And on behalf of NASE, I want to thank you all for joining and participating in this webinar. Again, thanks you to Tyler and Blustream. Again, today's webinar is going to be archived on the NASE website, and you'll be able to view both the presentation deck along with the video of the webinar. Please feel free to share the link to that presentation with anyone within or outside of NASE.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everybody.